Hello there. Welcome back to Jim's Monday Malt Samples. Every time I come back into this now, I feel like as if I'm new to it for the first time. It's because I'm just sort of coming and going and in and out. So it's good to be back on. I hope everybody's picking this up. I will just do my usual little intro and then I'll be back to speak to you in a moment. Yeah, this all feels a bit rushed for me tonight because I was quite genuinely running around at the last moment, organising things at home, doing housey stuff. So I'm going to, bear with me, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to top up my beer because I'm having a beer because I'm off tomorrow. Woo. And then I'm going to pour myself a whiskey. And I'll do that first. And what I'm going to pour myself, well, I've got samples set aside. I'm going to bring my chat back up so as I can see. I've got samples set aside for tonight. Some of them not massive, so that'll work better. Got my samples set aside, but I'm going to open a bottle. I'm going to open a bottle of this Indri This, anybody who was in Glasgow for the Glasgow Whisky Festival, or more so for Roy Aquavite Duff's blind tasting on the Sunday. I've gone a bit blurry, never worry about it. I've probably have a bit there. Indri 46%. I may come back into focus, I may not. I will at some point. There we go. This bottle actually was voted number one. This was number one choice of everyone at that tasting by the time we got to the end. And I'll briefly talk about it. In that, my team, the novices, voted it their least favorite at the time. Whenever we were asked to talk about our favorites, favorite to least favorite, this just did not work for me one bit. And that nose, it's based on that nose poured freshly in the glass. It's all very so this is the triple 3-wood. I've said before, I'm not a huge virgin oak fan, and this isn't virgin oak, but it's got a nose of virgin oak. It's ex-bourbon, ex-French wine, and ex-PX sherry. Bottle at 46%. Fair play to them. But the nose for me was all, why am I keep going blurry tonight? What's going on? The nose for me was very bright and orangey and almost that I described as like Barocca. That's incredibly blurry. Let's see if I can. There we go. Like Barocca, like that fizzy vitamin tablet thing that you put in your, and that's what it reminded me of, and it just didn't sit very well at all. However, when it settled in the glass and settled, and I actually made the comment to the team early on that I almost guarantee you, as much as this is our least favorite now, this will probably be our most favorite at the end. And sure enough, it was. It just settled and became so delicate in the glass and a real nice drinking whiskey. So I actually didn't pick up the bottle based on that. I picked up the bottle because I'd intended in picking up a bottle anyway. I just hadn't got round to it. And then when that tasting happened, I thought, yeah, I got to get myself a glass of this because I really enjoyed that. See, it's weird because exactly the same thing happened last year with the Nika Yoichi. It just wasn't exactly terribly well thought of by everybody, but as we went along, it just became everybody's favorite. So I'm going to go into the chat. I just noticed, I'm scrolling quickly up and down because I just noticed one of the Highlands couldn't make it in tonight. That being Graham. Horner Graham's fighting a cold, so he's just said, here's a wee rattle for the tips jar off to make a wee hot toddy. Graham, get well soon, my friend, and thank you very, very much for that. Very much appreciate it, buddy. Cheers. I'm going to go into the chat, see who's in. Then I want to mention our good friend Al, and then I'll go back to you. Donner past Tim, early doors in there. Thank you, Donner. Good, Tim. Good to see you. Drew from Arizona. Drew also missing from the roster tonight, but good to see you. And Drew, cheers, my friend. McCallum, fine and rare. Doc, good to see you, buddy. I've missed you. I see a couple of names in there that we will see later, so I'm not just gonna say too much at the minute. Craig Blair is in. Craig, how are you, my friend? Frank is in. Cheesemeister 66. That's Stephen. Good to see you, Stephen. Scrolling sugar. Kitty, how are you? Des, good to see you. Whiskey Lover Society. Kurt, how are you, my friend? Cool running. Let me see. I'm not. I don't call out the people that I'm going to be speaking to later. Peter Lee, how are you, my friend? Peter, you and I received little gifts from sorry, this is my memory going. I noticed that you had got one as well, and I received mine today from Jason Bradford. So I look forward. I'll say no more because I don't know who else has got, but I definitely look forward to that one. You know what I'm talking about. Multi-mission Mano, how are you, buddy? What's he saying? All age in. Did you just light up a huge reefer? that's almost what it would look like, wasn't it? Whiskey with Molly Ben in, but not won't be in tonight in attendance, but we know we are, Ben. Jerry Miller, how are you, Jerry? Good to see you. And Hamish Malcolm is in. Highland Hamish, how are you? David Owen. I'm not reading the chat. That's the sad thing. I'm skipping through. I should do. I always do this. David Owen, a lot of people in tonight. It's good to see you all in. Thank you. Thank you for joining in. And this is me going quiet while I try to do two things at once because the chat just skipped forward. There we go. Right, that's me down. I've said hello to everybody currently. So we'll go back now. And what, as I said, what I want to do is I just want to keep you up to date. People have been asking about Al, Whiskey Straight Al, how he's doing. Last I heard, he had a couple of bad days last week. I was speaking to him at the weekend. He'd had a couple of bad days late last week, but he's sort of on his way back again. And I think this just seems to be the way of it. Very up and down. Still, anybody who doesn't know Whiskey Straight Al, our good friend Al, awaiting a lung transplant, double lung transplant. Not in good shape. So thoughts go out to Al as always. They really do. So this one's for you, Al. Sorry, that was Peter Lee. Sorry, Peter Lee's. I just read that. I knew I'd seen Peter Lee in. But Peter Lee's, my wife was listening in and she thinks I'm receiving gifts. Well, it was Peter Lee, not Peter Lee's. Peter Lee's. Anyway, not a lot else to catch up with, I don't think. There was an awful lot happened over the last few weeks. I'm taking a bit of time off. Anybody who's watching here that hasn't noticed or picked up on that, I'm taking a couple of weeks or a few weeks. Don't know how long yet. Haven't decided, but it will return. Taking a few weeks off the reviewing side of things. I had about 6 weeks of launches, and I think basically since Legfest at the end of September, there was an awful lot of whiskey events in between times, and I needed a bit of a breather from, and I think what felt most natural was to take a bit of a breather from reviewing, and it it's already helped in that I feel like as if I want to go back to reviewing already, but I'm going to take a couple of weeks anyway. I'm going to take a few weeks just to enjoy the breather. I haven't stopped. I'm doing this live stream. I'm doing little things for my patrons. I have videos planned, etc. And I have a lot of reviews planned. But I'm actually enjoying not sort of feeling that regimen of having to sit down and do tasting notes for the purposes of reviewing, etc. So it's actually just nice to just take a bit of a breather. And we all need to do that from time to time. See, the nose on this whiskey hasn't calmed down yet. It's the palate is lovely and light, but the nose just is still very, very bright and sort of. Peter Lee's saying you're not the only one that needs a breather. Peter, we all know that you work hard, buddy. We know it. I just happened to catch a bit of your post on Facebook earlier on that you were off treating the country today again. I know you like to get a run around on a Monday for your whiskey trips when the restaurant's closed. Lee J, who we'll speak to in a minute, saying they couldn't get past the baby. So that lactic note on the nose. So I don't get this, but I know exactly what you mean, Lee J. Because I remember it's still at the stage of being very, very bright. And I know that lactic note comes later. David Owens asking what's in the beer glass. Do you know, it's just Birra Moretti. Good classic Italian fizzy. I've discovered recently that lighter lagers go easier on me the next day. I don't suffer the same the next day if I've had just a lighter lager of the evening, even if I'm drinking whiskey along with it. I just needed something sweet and etc. Where's Roy? Oh, Roy's in. Roy, good to see you, my friend. It was good to see you the other week. Right, what will we do? I've spoken in the chat. I've passed things on. Let's bring in my guests, shall we? The Highlands. It wouldn't be a Monday Malt samples now without a few Highlands involved. And I wasn't sure. I knew there weren't a lot available tonight. I knew a lot of people were busy doing other things, and totally understandable. When I go to do these live streams, I always put this to the Highlands in our group and say, anybody who's available, good to see you. If nobody's available, totally understandable. But none of them ever let me down. There's always somebody will step up, and some of them have. Who will add? I'm going to add them all in at the same time, pretty much, but I'm going to add them in sort of order. So we'll bring in, let's see, Neil first. Neil. And then Tony, and then Lee J.
Evening.
And last but not least, a new face to you. A whiskey virgin, if you will. he's a Monday Malt sample virgin, so go easy on him. So a lot of you people will actually know this guy. You might not know him to see. I know a lot of you met him at the Glasgow Whisky Festival. You may know him as a different name. I'm not going to go any deeper than that. But please welcome to the stage, Ryan McLeave. Ryan, how are you?
Cheers, folks.
Woo!
How's it going, Jim?
And so there you go. We have 5 Highlands in here all together. And do you know the group is growing bigger? It's one of those things that I think we all know that we've all come to this agreement, maybe an unwritten rule, and said that there's no such thing as a member of the Highland Battalion. We're just Highlands that happen to be together.
Enjoying whiskey.
Exactly.
And the thing is, it's weird because the Skylands, if you will, that was a great moment. What am I getting? It's not licorice. What's the other? Aniseed. An awful lot of aniseed in that jam. What are we all drinking tonight, boys? Neil.
A linkwood. Me linkwood, just something light.
He does love his linkwood.
Lovely.
Tony.
I'm also on a linkwood.
Oh,
Ryan.
I have a Gordon and MacPhail Colila 13-year-old.
Oh, go
Fancy.
big or go home, Lee J.
I've got a. Oh, no, this one.
Good man. Keeping her Irish.
Well,
At least
good.
one of us is drinking an Irish whiskey.
Something easier for a Monday.
Do you know, Lee J, I might be cheeky and ask you what the chances of you keeping a sample of that aside from me are.
Yeah, no worries, mate. Yeah, certainly.
Because I can't get Quailsgate anymore. I bypassed it or when I say I bypassed it, I couldn't. Well, at the time that it was available, I didn't buy a bottle, and now it's not available, and I can't get a bottle. So I would just like to try it because I do like the green spot wine finishes, but just couldn't get my hands on that. What do you think of it?
Yeah, it's very nice actually. Yeah, nose is sweet and red apples and all sorts. Yeah, it's a nice. Yeah, you can get the wine influence definitely.
Yeah, because
well.
I
Yeah,
did wonder about it because Pinot Noir is such a light wine, light red, to be using as a wine finish, and sometimes it just doesn't work. And I wondered, whether it would, whether it would work or not.
Easy drinker, nice. Yeah.
Is that
Menno's
wine
saying,
from Quailsgate from Canada? Maybe
California? No, is it Canada?
California.
yeah, it must be it's the New World, is it? It's the, I would imagine. A multi-mission Menno's saying to have an Englishman waving the Irish flag, there's hope for the world yet. What are the chances?
Don't say. It must be on the
No,
tube.
yeah.
That's gone in the bin.
The other two wine, because the Chateau Montelena, I know that was California, Louisville Barton's Bordeaux. Anyway, Peter Lee's gone blind. He has no idea what it is. The doc says it must be methanol. There you go. Right. So, what the subject is tonight, we're looking at it's Christmas next month, right? So I just thought this would be good, and it's a subject that I've been planning to do for quite a while, but just never get around to it. Gadgets, gifts, and glassware, and some of these actually cross over because I have an awful lot of glassware sitting in front of me right now that you can't see, and some of them were, well, certainly one of them anyway was a gift. So it's a sort of a bit of both worlds. Sugar Kitty is saying, yeah, Quailsgate is Canadian. I didn't realize that. British Columbia.
Cool. That's cool.
Wasn't aware of that.
A Canadian finish on an Irish whiskey. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
At least it doesn't take like maple syrup.
That's good.
Oh. and mousses.
Sorry for any Canadian fans.
So right, I'm gonna start. And glassware. I'll tell you what we'll maybe do is we'll just bounce this back and forward between glassware and glassware and gadgets and stuff like that there. And before we went live, whenever I'd finished rushing around, I was telling Lee J that I bumped into a guy from his neck of the woods. A guy came into the shop from his sort of neck of the woods the other day, and I was speaking to a very nice guy, and he asked me the question, so what should I be drinking my whiskey out of? What sort of glass should I be drinking my whiskey out of? And this is the thing. I'm convinced that most people in the world, I would say the bulk of people in the world, still think of this as a whiskey glass. And there's no harm in that. I mean, it's I mean, in fairness, actually, during the summer, this is my bourbon glass. And weirdly, I still want to drink bourbon out of a glass like this. in the same way that I want to drink wine out of a wine glass. And I used to think it was a bit poncy maybe, but I like to adopt culture as well. I like to adopt the culture of what I'm eating or drinking as well. Like, I mean, if I'm eating Chinese food, I eat it with chopsticks because we're punks. I don't know. It's just one of those things that it feels. It's just become something that we do at home. My kids eat Chinese food with chopsticks because it's just what we do. Maybe it's a bit poncy, but at the same time, somebody did say that to me in the shop the other day, and they're right. And it's that, I mean, you wouldn't necessarily. You can still do it, but you wouldn't drink wine out of a glass like that. Of course, you can do it, but it just doesn't feel right.
Mm.
So, at what point? And then so chatting to these guys. So this is speaking to the crowd, speaking to who's in the chat here. I had this brief discussion about this, and I said, unfortunately, that guy. I explained to that guy that this isn't necessarily what we would consider a wine glass anymore. But I said, unfortunately, those people like that guy don't watch the whiskey community. They don't listen to us really. And Tony, you see, Tony, I didn't steal it. I'm gonna tell everybody it was your idea. As Tony said, but how did we find out that wasn't considered the whiskey glass of choice without watching channels like ours? And he was right. He's 100% right. You know, that we all sort of started our whiskey journey somewhere, and we all discovered then what glass we liked. So Tony, you're drinking out of one of and this was the glass I was talking about whenever I said that one of these crosses over between glassware and gift, because you gifted this to me, and I've never used this. Because this is on display in my cabinet, because it's as in literally on display in a glass cabinet, because I'm sort of scared of breaking it. It's a lovely thing. It's anybody who can see it's Thompson Brothers nosing glass. It's beautiful.
It's even nicer to drink out of.
Yeah. I know what would happen if this got into general use in my house. It would be in the dishwasher. There'd be milkshake getting drank out of it. It would it wouldn't get used for the purpose it should be getting used for.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't trust it in the dishwasher now.
No. So would you guys agree, right? So we discover then pretty quick that we move on to this. We move on to the Glencairn.
Yeah.
But would you guys agree that I've certainly noticed, and I see Lee J, is that we've all started to steer a lot toward the Capita.
Yeah. Definitely.
Is that I always find with the Glencairn is nice with it, but the whiskey warms up around my hands.
Yeah.
And I think someone said that, I can't remember who. Might have been Roy. About it's just easier to hold as well, because there's quite a clump in at the bottom of the Glencairn.
Yeah. No matter what way you hold it, your hand's always in contact with the glass where the whiskey is.
Yeah. The Capita feels more delicate almost, because you're kind of holding it like a wine glass.
But then I sort of felt at first that that's what I liked about this, was the fact that you could roll it around your hand and it just felt right.
Oh yeah, it's still my choice. Definitely, just this was closer when I opened the cupboard.
It stays on a lanyard better, that's for sure.
Well, we know that, because this is this is what and what Neil is pointing to. Oh, do you remember what this used to look like, Neil? You remember when you had one of these? Poor Neil's didn't make it home.
It's a sign of a good time.
This is what we were given this year for Glasgow's Whiskey Festival. Now, I hadn't held it up against the Glencairn before, until tonight, and it's no, just
I like it. I've always wanted one of these wee ones, so
yeah. Well, you're
I was
wrong.
delighted.
It just doesn't. It just doesn't feel there. I mean, the Glencairn, at least to me, as I say, there was the fact that it did that. It just, you could rest it in your hand and even sort of play about with it a bit. The Capita just feels natural, and I just want to do that all the time.
I have the shorter version, the Glencairn with the small stem.
Aye, well, that's yeah, and there's loads of different wee sort of variations on them, but they're still fairly similar to. But then,
I find that the wee glass we got at the festival, I think they call it a spey, is it a urban spey glass or something. If you don't put too much liquid into it, it does work quite well. But
I don't know. I use it as an excuse to put more whiskey in it, and I tell my wife, "Oh, it's just a wee glass. There's not much in there. Just don't add on."
well, you see, this is where I want to move to next, because there's a few questions coming in. Sorry, Menno was asking, does that glass fit in one of those Glencairn cords? Is that so that's the question. Menno, are you asking, is it the lanyard that it fits in? And the answer was no. Everybody was so everybody showed up this year with their lanyards, and then you could see everybody was doctoring them and sort of trying to figure out what way they could get it to sit into their lanyard, and it just didn't really work properly, and it's just wrong, bad. A note go home to their parents, and that's. So you were saying there, Ryan, about pouring a measure in, and that's the thing.
Yep.
So a measure in a glass this size looks like nothing. So you're tempted to pour more, and I'm convinced of this, that this is where it sort of starts to go a bit awry. You can get away with pouring very little on one of these, and I actually I've got loads of mini Glencairns here as well, but I forgot to bring any out tonight. That you can pour something into, and it looks like as if you pour something. This is where it starts to go the other direction a bit for me, and doesn't work. You boys will know what this is.
Yeah.
A lot of people
Disaster.
might not. Disaster, basically.
Yeah, I took mine out.
This is a Tua glass, spelled Tuath, and invented here in Ireland. Rosie, most of us would know Rosie here, Rosie from Tua. And don't get me wrong, I would actually agree that it is quite a beautiful looking thing. And
Yeah.
I'm holding it like this because apparently this is the way you're supposed to hold it. That's what that's for. Plus, you can sort of set it on its side, etc., and it doesn't look. But it doesn't maybe look like it there, standard Glencairn Tua glass. But when you put a measure into a Tua glass, the same as you put into Glencairn, it looks like nothing. It looks like you've poured
really?
nothing. So you have to almost pour more into it to make it look like as if there's whiskey in the glass. It tends to disappear into the bottom of it because the bottom of it's flatter. And this, I really don't like. This rim.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel comfortable to drink out of. It's the fact that it's turned out. I don't get that at all. I genuinely do not understand what that's about.
But what about those Thompson Brothers glasses? How hard or easy were they to adapt to as a nosing glass? Because they seem quite wide at the top.
No,
No, they're actually narrower than a Glencairn.
All right.
So
They look
And
deceptively wide.
yet again, if you look
there's
down
another version which is a wine glass, which is the same shape as this, but a lot of people are getting them two confused.
All right.
where had you two different ones there?
No, I just.
Oh, there is another one. Yes.
Yeah.
But look at the difference there. I mean, that's the Thompson Brothers. That's the Tua. And that's a Glencairn. It's quite a big, and I don't get this. I don't know why. No. down with 2 glasses, down with that sort of thing.
They're good for an Irish coffee.
Aye, that's fair.
I'll have to take your word for that. I'm gonna have a quick look through the chat here to see what I'm missing.
I see Drew was talking about the wee glass we all got at the Clyde side.
It was the mini Glencairns, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. As I say, I've got a few of them from distilleries. Whiskey with Molly saying, I think Glasgow Whisky Festival, I was using a pint glass. I think you were. So McCall Finery of the Dock saying that's the one they used this year's Inter Whiskey show. Is that the 2 glass, does he mean? I wonder, because if they did, that's weird. Anyway,
He says yes.
yeah,
Interesting.
that's bizarre. But you see, well, I suppose Inter Whiskey, that would be Germany. I'll take it. Is that in Germany?
Frankfurt.
And the German, as far as I can tell, Irish whiskey and in Germany seems to be very, very popular. You know, that whole Irish whiskey community thing. So
Whenever
what
I
we'll do
first
is
started using the 2 glasses, I thought they were okay until I started comparing them to the Glencairn. But I noticed a big difference.
I'm just finding it strange, as I said, how the Capita just seems to be really becoming the even to the point now where I've noticed a lot of launches. I've noticed them through the shop when they're giving a free glass away with anything. It's a Capita they're doing now. They've sort of moved away from the Glencairn. And the thing about it is, it's not to do it. I wouldn't imagine it's to do it as a price saving exercise, because most of the Capitas that they're using are actually still made by Glencairn. So it's still Glencairn that are making the money out of this. But I just find it weird that well, I find it weird, but not necessarily. Jimmy Leg. Cheers. This is another wee boy that we were throwing these out in work, pretty much decided to grab one. Shot glasses, just a little Dubliner shot glass. But yet again, still a lot of people in the world that think this is the way to drink whiskey.
Yep. Straight up.
Yep. And once again, they're wrong. I used to tell them personally, there you are, David Owen. Personally, prefer a short stemmed Capita, because there's an awful lot of them about now. I came across in work some lovely Middleton, very rare short stemmed Capitas that we didn't even realize we had, and we had boxes of them. So obviously one of them made its way home to my house. It was, you just have to be, you know.
Do you swap flat Wales Gate?
Have any of you ever tried the Norland glass before?
Yeah.
I meant to actually ask. I never got the opportunity to ask is, did anybody have one?
Yeah, I did. Oh,
And it's the skinned. It's like a skinned glass, isn't it? And
yeah, it's like is it vacuum? Sorry.
It's a glass within a glass, isn't it?
It's like a flask almost.
It's not bad to drink from or to nose from, but it's such a thick lip around the top of it, so you sort of feel like you're drinking a beaker or something.
I've got a Pars one here. Do you remember the Pars ones that they were doing for the Irish coffees in? And it's the same idea.
Yeah.
It's basically so as your body heat isn't getting into the glass. It's not a case of the heat getting in and out. I think it's just the heat getting out. Drew's saying everybody's taking a drink except from the bottle. Of course we have, Drew.
Yeah.
I do it regularly whenever I'm doing tasting notes, because it's like if you like this, then try that. And I basically just go around the cabinet, tipping them up to see which.
Which is closest.
And then, of course, you've got your blinds. Don't forget about them. You always have to
Well,
have
that's
your
cool.
blinds in there somewhere.
I don't have any of them.
No,
Do you
they're
know-
fine. Very cool.
Do you know how many times I've used these? Never.
None.
Never. I did use. I used the blue Capita for a while. Whenever, because Capitas just didn't. They weren't as easy to get hold of. So I managed to get hold of one of the blue ones, and that was why I was just using it. But now they're, as I said, now that Capitas are everywhere, I just use the standard Capita all the time. And most of them, I got a pile of ones that came from Waterford. And believe it or not, that's one of them. And it says, it used to say Waterford on it, but all washed off.
Yeah, I got mine from the SMWS when we were in Glasgow. I asked could I buy a couple, and they just kind of.
That's right. I forgot about that.
So, fair play to them.
Right, I'm going to pour myself a wee sample. Do you know what I'm going to pour myself a sample of? Just to break the subject a wee bit, and then we'll get back into the subject.
Dumbles.
No.
Oh. Oh.
The original.
Oh.
Some might
What's that
say the
mean?
best.
The original. What's
Anybody
that
who
mean?
was watching today will know that Old Cumber launched, relaunched. So let's explain what Old Cumber is, because an awful lot of people outside of here don't know what Old Cumber is. There's not, matter of fact, there's an awful lot of people inside here don't know what Old Cumber is either. Cumber Distillery was in Cumber here in Northern Ireland. Closed down in the 1950s. There, pretty much. The name was bought up again by Acklandville Distillery, the guys behind Dumbles as well, and Dr. Finoan O'Connor and etc. was dipping into old recipes, which to me, granted, a nice thing, but who's going to know what the old recipe tasted like? Really? I mean, you could find a recipe from days gone by and remake a food, a recipe to make something, and make it thinking that you've made it. But how do you know that it tastes like what it used to taste like? Really? I mean, you're basically just so. This is much the same. That even if they've went off an old recipe, who's ever going to know what the original one tasted like? So the one that was
different
released today,
copper pot still ships and stuff would kind of change flavor.
exactly. So this is a pot still. This was their first release of the Old Cumber, based on that name, and this was a pot still, port casks, I believe, that used, and today they launched the second batch some years later. So that was about 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, that they released the first batch. Today they released, and there was such a frenzy built up for this prior to actually releasing it that it sold out in no time. Absolutely no time at all. It was 300 bottles, or something around 300 bottles they sold today. And it's a blend. It's a blend of malt, I believe, from Acklandville, 35% and 65% Great Northern Distillery grain. And I'll be totally honest, it's a bit generic. Once again, the new one, I've tried it a couple of times now, and this was the one that sold today. And there was a frenzy for it, and very small release. And apparently it's going to be general release in 2 weeks' time, but nobody can wait. So everybody rushed out to buy it today. So this is the original one. This was this is my first time trying this. I know a few of you had tried it before, but
No, I never tried it. Did you guys try it? Whiskey Festival 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
I
No,
must
I'll take you on
admit,
to that other under the table one.
Hmm.
this is fantastic. This is actually, this is Middleton quality pot still whiskey, if I'm being honest.
Is there more of that sample, or more from where that came from? I
That
mean,
was
I mean for you to buy. I mean, or or is
no,
that?
that was as much of that as I got. That's the original pot, Old Cumber, and it was Seamus Oak from Ecklandville that got me that wee bit.
Yeah.
And no, that's it. All came and went really quickly. I don't even think it was fully. I don't think it was all Ecklandville. I think it was an
Now,
awful
when you
lot of.
say original, Jim, how far back are you talking
It's
now?
a couple of years ago now. A couple
A
of years
couple
ago.
of years.
Okay.
Aye, they picked up the Cumber name, and they were re-releasing the Old Cumber whiskey by their style. I'm slightly concerned that what they've done is taken a huge step back by making Old Cumber this time a blend, and the thing about it is it just confuses the whole issue, because you've went from a what I could now tell you is an absolute quality pot still whiskey to what is, to me, it was a bit of a generic blend from what I've tasted of another sample of the new one. I didn't buy a bottle today. To say I didn't buy a bottle today, I bought 2 bottles of it today, but not for me. For it was very bizarre. It was for a representative from another distillery altogether who just happened to come into the shop and say, "You getting any Old Cumber?" And I said no. And I opened my phone, and it turned out that because it was a weird series of events, somebody had asked about Darcy's whiskey, which Ecklandville also own the name of now and have been producing. And I just happened, somebody came into the shop. No, sorry, we don't have it. They left. I happened to look up Darcy's, got myself onto the queue for Old Cumber by accident. And when said representative from other distillery came in and said, "Are you
Right.
getting any Old Cumber?" And I went, "No." And I looked up my phone. I opened up my phone, and it turned out I was 54 in the list, and he was 154 in the list. So
Wow.
I actually managed to. And I says, "Well, look, I'll get 2 bottles." So I bought the 2 bottles in his name. He paid for them, and that was it. Deal done, and away he went. And he was delighted because he wouldn't. So he was 154 in the list. By the time he got to the front of the queue, it sold out. So he was delighted, absolutely delighted, and I was delighted. I was pleased for
What
him
sort of
because
money, Jim?
they're only £55 a bottle. It wasn't
bad.
ridiculously expensive. However, remember, it's still just a non-age stated blend.
I would say,
So
was that 40 quid for the McLean's nose?
I would take McLean's nose over it any day of the week.
It's
Jim, do you
nice.
have any of the batch 1 in the shop
The
of the one you're tasting now?
I have 1 bottle to look at.
Oh, to look at. Okay.
But sure, that was the one, Ryan, that came and went. That was the one,
Yeah.
like, as I say, 2-3 years ago, and nobody could get it. Everybody was busting their balls to get their hands on a bottle of it, and nobody could get it. So
Yeah, remember Phil talking about it. That it's good stuff.
that genuinely is. That's the first time, and probably the only time I'll ever try it. But I can tell you that it is good. So there you go.
And then was that their own juice or not?
See, that's what I'm saying. It was. I think they talked at the time. I don't think it could have been all their own. I don't think they're enough.
No, I don't think it.
I think an awful lot of it maybe was. So when me saying that stands up there to, I have to be very careful with what I say on. I don't know who's watching this, but personal opinion. When they say that, because I remember at the time, I remember chat at a time they couldn't call it. See, it actually says pot still Irish whiskey, I think it said the same in the bottle, because it wasn't single pot still, because it didn't all come from Ecklandville. A percentage of it maybe did, but a percentage of it didn't. So then you have to think about where could it have come from, and who at that time was making pot still in Ireland of that quality.
Yeah.
So I don't want to suggest too much, but there could be Middleton in it. You never know. But it's lovely. It is lovely. So I was going to veered off the glassware a wee bit, and the reason I did, I didn't realize we were 45 minutes in already. I wanted to talk about gifts and gadgets. And the first gift I want to talk about, and I want to make a point of this because he's in the chat, and I received this quite a few years, 3 or 4 years ago now. It's a honey dripper with a Glencairn on the end of it. And this came from Pete Head. This came from Frank. Frank made this. Frank, any of you don't know, is a bit of a woodworker. And I just think this is beautiful. I absolutely love it. And it sits
cool.
on front of I've got a display on top of a cabinet and on top of one of my cabinets. It's about eye level. And this is front. Lee J.
Wow,
We'll make a hell of a band one day, won't we? To get these together. Just want to cut holes in it and get stuck in there. It's just a thing of beauty.
Frank, get the lathe going. We're all have to get here. Get the lathe going.
Well, the guy's in here, so I'm not gonna add anything else to that. I just think it's a thing of beauty, and thank you again, Frank. But just talking about lathes, and I meant to do a video for this earlier, just so as I could add it in. Good friend Richard Agnew is in. Richard, good to see you in, buddy. This is a whiskey smoker. I was gonna do a short video of me using this because I haven't used it. There is a smoke mark on it, but that was the guy who created it. That was him. And I'm glad I didn't start to try and use it earlier on because I can't actually. You can see that he's actually incorporated one of my coins into the top of it, which I think is the thing of beauty.
Very good.
This was actually created by a friend of mine, David McClurg, who has a YouTube channel called The Relaxing Wood Shop, and I'm going to add that into the chat. Just if any of you get the chance, that's I've added a link into David's YouTube channel, and they had a bit of ball. Him and his son Chris have this YouTube channel, and he created these whiskey smokers. And it was the thing about it was he just made one, and then he decided to make one for me, and I thought it was very, very kind of him. And you just literally burn these little chips in it. I suppose you never used it, maybe never will, but I just thought it was a thing of beauty. And
so that's for like smoking a cocktail, or maybe like a
basically, Lee J. Basically, so I mean,
like an old fashioned or something.
Yeah, so that would be the thing. It would probably, it wouldn't work in that glass, but it works in that. So basically, you put these. He's given me some little chips of wood. When I pop the coin out of there, there's a little grill of a thing, almost like like a barbecue sort of thing, and you set them onto that, burn them, and it just smokes down into the glass.
Oh, okay.
And then lift that off. It's all in the glass. As I said, not necessarily for me, not my thing, but maybe in the summer, whenever I'm sitting outside, I'll maybe give it a go for the crack.
Barbecue type.
Yep.
The other thing I wanted to mention just in passing while we're talking about gifts, and I haven't done them all, but we'll get there. This is something else I brought back from Glasgow Whisky Festival after meeting Tom Ottinger for the first time. Tom's wife made this for me, and I thought this was lovely. I believe it to be Strathisla distillery, and I just thought it was a thing of beauty. It's a tile, and it's like a pot stand, basically. And I just want to say thank you again to Tom for that. I just think it's beautiful, and it's something that reminded me once again about how caring and sharing and beautiful this whiskey community is. And I just thought it was a lovely thing. And I think it's one of those things that happens. And I know you guys, we've all, through Drew and Tom and etc., we've all come away with gifts, be it a glass, be it a this, be it a that, and it's just, I think it means the world whenever it's something, certainly whenever you weren't expecting it.
Yeah.
I still drink out of the big glass from last year's from Drew.
Yeah.
So, the regular
And there's
beer
one of
glass.
those beer glasses, Ryan. There is a beer glass for you somewhere.
Yeah, so I've
It
heard.
may be en route to my house, actually. I think Drew
Okay.
posted it to me.
He's
Or
a
not
good
Drew, Roy. Because
Roy.
Roy had.
Looking forward to
Because
it.
we were supposed to pick up stuff at Leg Fest, and it just obviously didn't happen.
There's all that glassware, isn't it? You got your decanters and that. I was looking before we went on, and all the different decanters and glasswares and stuff. And there's some really odd.
Well,
decanters.
I nearly came away
Like,
from
completely
I
wrong.
nearly came away from Poland earlier this year with an AK-47 decanter just for the crack.
I saw a tank in this pictures earlier on. I was like, really? A glass decanter tank.
And well, I was just slightly concerned. I wasn't concerned about getting glassware home. It was more a case of a glassware AK-47. Peter Lee's saying the only gift I left you, Neil and Tony, was a full stomach from my restaurant. Peter, buddy, it was very much appreciated. Still thought about to this day, but still talked about to this day as well. I'm going to pour myself another sample, but I'm not going to use that glass again because it is still full of pot still, and I do imagine it will smell of it. This one's clean. This one here is this is going to be an interesting one. This is from Harrods. Our mate Tony and Neil, our mate Marty gave me this.
Mm-hmm.
This is from Harrods. It's an 8-year-old pure malt from 1984. It's got an interesting.
Pure malt.
Yeah, I know. It must have been just the terminology at the time, because
Actually, there's like Glenfiddichs that are pure malts and stuff from the 80s, and
Try to
I
follow.
don't want to pass up on gifts. Excuse my hands here, but I just want to turn the camera around quickly and just thank Graham Horner for those. That's Graham gifted me them. I know I can't really zoom in from here.
all them bottles, Jim. Jesus, very good to you.
All of those bottles. No. The Graham Horner's pictures, and it was a link that I had planned to throw in, but I'll throw it into to this video for Graham's certainly his Instagram page. Check out Graham's page. Anybody, they're becoming incredibly popular, these, and everybody has to have one on their wall. So John McAllister, I remember the pure malt. There you go. There's term remembers the pure malt Cardew scandal. Don't remember the dates, mind you. So we'll have to look into that. Where was I going? I'm still talking about gadgets, and I haven't got because one thing, gifts and gadgets, and I didn't want to get too far away before I get back into glassware. I do love gifts of small, sort of weird things, and especially whenever it comes along with a whiskey. Dragon Claw, Irish whiskey. Chris Crooks, guy behind it, tattoo artist, and doing things for himself. So this was a little, ball opener, but these, oh baby, this I loved. So I do like. I've sort of, another thing I've started sort of gathering up over the years is playing cards, Used to play quite a bit of poker. Don't play as much as I used to. But these I was gifted. And I wasn't gifted by Chris himself, but it doesn't matter. Lovely little wooden box, yes. Dragon claw on it. Ooh.
No.
Love it.
Fancy.
I quite happily have my ashes put in this. Dragon claw cards, but they're not just. I try to get them out of here without wrecking. I'm not wrecking them. It sounds like I'm wrecking them, but I'm not. Well, in a minute, mind you, if I don't get them out.
52 card pickup.
Card. This is me not getting angry. Not getting angry. They're lovely. You want to see them? So they were old foil cards, and you know, it's one of those things. Playing cards, if you're into that sort of thing.
That's what we'd be saying about you, Jim, if your ashes were in there. He was a thing of beauty.
We all thought he was a lovely fella. At least you would carry that up. I mean, you wouldn't mind carrying that up. 40 is under that.
So would you guys have many whiskey gifts in mind for Christmas coming up?
Whiskey.
Just whiskey?
Whiskey.
We insist on saying it that socks or whiskey. Give me whiskey any day of the week, you know, and it's one of those things that people do. Does any of you find that people won't necessarily buy you whiskey anymore because you've got too much already?
I think it's also they're scared of buying you something that you're going to hate
or you've already got, or you might already have it. And it's, the way I look at that is, I don't care. You buy me it twice. My sister bought me a bottle of Jameson, a litre bottle of Jameson for my birthday, passed there. And, you know, it'll be nice with ginger in it in the summer. Nice.
That's it.
You know, so it's
like in my wife's side of the family, we do a bigger family secret Santa. There's about 15, 20 people involved, and it's £20 limit, maybe 25. And I would normally say to people, look, Johnny Walker Black or Shackleton Black bottle, just something that I can enjoy and even pop open with the whole family over Christmas. That's, you know, decent enough. So no, it's not too bad. You can get them for a good price around this time of year too. Loads of offers on.
Exactly. And have any of us been given anything in the past, gift-wise, that has stood out to you?
I did have a candy cane full of little miniature Fireball, which I think I shared with a fair few people.
Yeah, EJ. You probably better not admitting to that one. Yeah.
That was quite fun.
It's quite sad. It is genuinely quite. Sorry, I'm going to open another beer because I'm off tomorrow. It's genuinely quite sad that I feel a bit guilty that I literally poured it down the sink. I took a sip of it and poured it down the sink. Do you know the thing about Fireball is
it's flipping horrible.
Apart from the fact that it's horrible, you see, with apple juice at room temperature, it doesn't. It's actually better not cold, but at room temperature. It's apple pie. It tastes just like alcoholic apple pie. It's fantastic. But the problem is you have to buy Fireball. And, you know, you do it sort of once or twice, and then you go to, it was a good idea at the time. And then you almost feel, really me anyway, I felt a bit of a sticky mess after that. I felt guilty. I was like, why did I do that? I don't feel right now.
I'll just buy the apple pie instead.
Exactly. Far better just doing that. Whiskey, beers, cigar guy, N.A. Richard shows up once in a blue moon, and he shows up just to back 2 glasses.
He would.
Cheers, Richard. Good to see you, my friend.
Yeah.
I was hoping to try and get a nice flask, But like those nice, is it Rag Proper or something you call one of them brands that do them? Yeah.
That's the little Writer's Tears one, Tony, isn't it? Or...
Adelphi, the Yard American one.
Oh, right.
Oh, lovely.
No, I
Very
well,
nice.
I haven't got that one. I need to get that one.
Is that got a
That's
glass side on it as well?
No.
So there's a wee Writer's Tears one, the same sort of shape, size, but it's got a glass side on it. So...
Yeah. But
That's
how
a
often
neat
would you actually use the likes of hip flask?
See, that's the
I
thing.
must-
And I actually meant to bring. It's funny you saying that, Neil, because I
Weddings.
did.
Yeah.
Exactly. I've got 2 or 3 of them. And I meant to bring, that was something I meant to bring in here. And you genuinely, weddings. And then you you come home from the wedding and there's about 2 sips out of it because you've snuck into the toilet at one point because you don't be sitting in public doing it. You don't pour it into a glass. So it just says it's that thing, you know. Don't let anybody see you doing it. So you come home with a hip flask full of the same whiskey that you put into it.
Or here,
That's
you forget
been my
about it,
experience, anyway.
and then your next wedding, it's still in there and it's black because of the lining inside.
Yep. because
Never
because
good.
as much as you paid a lot of money for that hip flask, it was cheap shit. Let's face
Yeah.
it.
Maybe not then. I may leave that then.
The thing is, we all end up with them.
Yeah.
I mean, I've about 4 or 5 hip flasks there, and wee tiny ones and big standard size ones. And honestly, I've used maybe 3 times. I've taken ones to, and it's been that occasion. It's been weddings, or I took one to, believe it or not, I took one to Isla, and I actually think it was full of Ardbeg as well. That's just, I mean, who takes a hip flask full of Ardbeg?
Did you fill it when you were there?
I probably should have done, Ryan. That was the thing. Or just
Yeah.
take an empty one. Would have been the
Well, when
wiser
you're in
one.
the Galgorm and they're looking 12 pound a measure red breast, 12, you're maybe better having a
Ma-
flask.
Wow.
How much was the American oak there then?
Don't know.
So what was it? Oh, and that's the other thing. Look, I'm not advertising, but for any wives or family members who don't know what to buy, go out and buy them something. Like there's Roy's little glass toppers. I'm not selling Roy up there, but just, you know, anything like that.
Here, Craig Blair has a good comment there about a hip flask great for the rugby, which it really is. If you're in an Ulster game in January and you need a wee warmer, it's perfect.
You do all right.
Fireball and apple juice.
Yep, you wouldn't care.
The other thing is, get yourself onto Glencairn's website, and I mean, Glencairn, Gary from Glencairn contacted me at a time and was giving me, and it was just, pardon me, I think any of us, I'm convinced if you asked, it wouldn't be a big issue. And they will give you trade prices, like if you go on, if you're that desperate for that sort of stuff. So I found myself, whenever I was offered trade prices, I was buying all sorts of stuff off them then, and that's what they want. That's just, you know, they think they're going to. So that's where the black. I ended up buying a whole set of black Glencairns off them, and that just looks dodgy, doesn't it?
Just watch where you put it. Yep.
especially whenever you just, you know. Anyway, but a little pipette in there, and
Do you use it?
no, but it's a good looking thing. Every now and again, whenever I'm doing a live stream, I bring it out and show it to people.
What about the whiskey rocks? Anyone ever bought any of those
Oh,
cold stone whiskey rocks?
Oh man!
Just thought I'd ask.
Oh, he's away. You'll get rid of him. He's gone.
I think they're a good way of breaking glasses.
Losing friends.
Yeah. That's my safe word now. Whiskey rocks.
Once again, I was actually going to borrow some from work because the Titanic set, that's the only place I've seen them, was the Titanic set.
Are they shaped like icebergs or no?
No, never mix. Yeah, that's what I say. Never mix Titanic and ice. I was just going to grab the three of them and borrow them and bring them in, but we get asked about it regularly. Do you sell whiskey stones? No. It's just one of those things, isn't it? Oh, was Tony away getting his, was he?
Nope. That's why getting a refill.
Well, and the thing about it is, I've no doubt that at some point somebody will buy us them. Oh, he's on the rye. Oh, the rye.
It's the closest one to me.
Honestly, I would rather have a pair of Jameson socks than whiskey stones. You know, it's
Yeah.
I think people don't realize that we don't like our whiskey cold. So
I think it's sort of a gateway thing into whiskey where you start off with a couple of rocks of ice and then you don't want to dilute it, but you still want the chill to take some of the heat off it.
There was looking before, they do circle
Time and place, indeed.
ice makers, circle cubes or globe cubes, and they're not meant to melt as quick. But I still wouldn't put them in a big tumbler. But
that's up there with secondhand smoke Lee, a globe cube. That's
circular cube.
The globe cubes.
They make those weird globe cube.
the West Country.
I have one of the cube ice makers, it's in the shape of the Death Star almost, but it doesn't work because remember Tony said there's a way you have to freeze it for it to become completely clear.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of.
I want one.
It has to be sort of insulated or something. Has to freeze.
You almost demeaned yourself for a second there, Ryan, from the Whiskey Stones comment. As soon as you said Death Star, that was it. He saved himself.
Yeah, it was cool, but I think a traditional freezer freezes from all angles, which doesn't make a clear kind of ice cube, etc.
Is it some sort of water? There's a special water or something, or
no? It's some people try distilled water and boiled water. It's just the way it freezes, traps the air inside it.
Right.
That's what makes it not clear.
You get
specialist things that's insulated around it, so it freezes from the bottom up and pushes all the air out. Technically.
Tony, you're a dark horse.
Useless bit of information.
All these science facts. I mean, we didn't know this about him. We were there for Leg Fest night and he never explained this once.
Kept that quiet.
I know, he just acted stupid the whole time.
Don't let me fool you.
So there you go.
Does anybody ever drink from a square glass?
The Bushmills one.
I have a taller one of them as well for
tall drinks. Tall drinks.
I have a shot glass of it as well for
short drinks.
No, they must be horrendous to drink out of. You got to turn it on the corner.
Yeah.
It's weird because I have one and it is about this size, and I remember looking at it at the time and thinking, oh, that's beautiful. And then the first time I had a drink it was, what the hell am I ever going to use that for? Because it literally is that. It's like drinking out a jug. What the hell is this about?
I bought that. I bought like a bigger Glencairn. Here's me out, but great, I'll use that.
I can hold the bottle, Neil. My God.
Sorry, there was a few. I just noticed Steve Risk listening from Perth, Australia. Steve, you're a new name to me. Welcome, sir. Jason Bradford, good to see you, everybody. And thank you, Jason, for, as I said, there was a little gift from him earlier. No, Neil, that's just great, mate. But it is that thing. Big glass, big dram, and it's something that I think we all realized very early on. That it's and the other thing that we've realized is that whenever you have a glass of this size, whenever we're used to this, pardon me, you very quickly get used to pouring yourself a measure, to the point where I remember doing this down in my father-in-law's house one day, that I poured a dram for myself. He set me down the glass and a jigger, and I poured myself a dram. And Julie, the wife, sort of sniggered. Ha! So there's a house pour and a half. And I says, that's just a measure. I said, well, I don't think so. And they all sort of gathered around as I poured what was in the Glencairn into the jigger and didn't spill a drop. Every bit of it just went right into. And the thing about it was, I must admit, I sort of walked out of the room and did one of those, I'd never do that again. Like exactly.
For a while.
Put it into the jug. But it's we do, and I remember it was the Scotch Test Dummies was the first time I remember watching them guys, and it was Scott and Bart, and I remember it was Bart. It was just he could just nailed a pour, 35 ml pour, without a jigger or anything like that, just pouring it. And I think we just get used to it. We don't get greedy. We pour ourselves a measure because we know that this is the glass of choice. What are you pair laughing at?
Neil's glass.
I pour the other night.
That's the one thing I like about the Thompson Brews glasses. They have the 25 ml mark
I
on them,
noticed that earlier.
All right, very good.
so you can keep it under control.
Just a Scottish pour there. Just a Scottish and English pour. Not for Irish people, those glasses.
No, they're really pretty
That was
glasses,
the thing
them
too,
Thompson Bros.
Al, who I'm hoping's in the best of health, but Al did like to pour himself a good measure. And one day will again. But Al's measures would whoa.
There's other gifts to go with the glasses. They got the from the barrel, and they start like a flight out of a stave.
Like a stave, yeah.
Yeah, I've got one of them. They're really good,
That's
actually. I quite like them. Happy to go with the glasses.
Is it from a particular distillery, Lee J, or?
No, not this particular one. But it's definitely they got a certificate of warrant. They saying it's a whiskey, but it doesn't say where from. So, a shame, but I think they're quite
Cool.
they're quite nice. They're quite nice.
Excellent. Jeff Whiskies in. Jeff, good to see you again, my friend. We had a bit of crack with remember, crack people. It means that something different for us than it does for a lot of the rest of the world. But the crack was good, Jeff. Desi Leland's in as well. Desi, it was a pleasure to see you again in Scotland. No, as I definitely am convinced that Glassware, we're not being poncy about it. It's. I think if we didn't go down this path of controlling ourselves via our glassware, pretty much, maybe sometimes we would be a bit greedy. Neil.
Yeah, it can, it can happen. So you were saying last year about the wee Glencairns you got from the different distillery tours you had done. You were enjoying them.
The thing about
Or
them
like
is they do the mini Glencairns do sort of feel, you do almost feel like as if you're having a good dram. You're having it without pouring a whole lot. Speaking of without pouring a whole lot, I'm going to pour one more sample because I had samples set out for myself tonight, and I was asked today what I thought of this, and I haven't got around to it. So there's how much of it I've got. It's not a lot, and I've poured it into this one, and it's the new Bushmills 31-year-old Madeira cask that they've just released.
New 31.
Apparently, it's very nice. I'm not. I've been told. So
cheers, Bushmills.
it's Bushmills. Of course, it's nice. And do you know the thing about it is, Tony? You know what it smells like?
Bushmills.
Bushmills. It smells like Bushmills.
You should have put it in your Bushmills glass.
Yeah, I'm sort of wasting it as it is. But putting it into this glass, but it does. It smells like Bushmills, but that's weird because it's 31 years old. So there is the Bushmills of late have started to talk about their DNA, and I can't disagree with them. That I don't think there's certainly not a distillery in Ireland that has a DNA like them, a DNA that holds true through maturation, and that they're do what you want with it. It still smells like Bushmills.
Yeah.
Strange. Like Tony had sent me 1980s Bushmills, and it didn't smell or taste like the typical Bushmills today. Like 31 years ago today is what, 1991. It's not too far off from the 80s, but it was so different.
Yeah.
It's quite meaty as well.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I'm sort of stupid because what I should have done tonight was, this was, as I say, this is their latest release. This is Bushmills' latest release. This is we're charging £2,100 a bottle.
Is that all?
That's not far off RRP, like, but it does, and I always liked, do you know the way I always like, and not like as if I haven't already done it, but you know the way I always like to throw in a wee, I've done it a few times tonight. I do like to throw in a wee, it pays to work in a whiskey shop. Tim, who is the sort of tour guide, one of the tour guides in Bushmills, works very closely with Bushmills. He's worked there for years. Great fella, lovely guy. Tim brought me a rather large sample the other day of the new, two samples. One of the new acacia wood. They've got a new acacia wood back on the shelves. Only 8,000 bottles. When it's gone, it's gone. I will be picking up a bottle of that. And a 1991 Madeira cask from Bushmills, bottled at 50-point-something%. So it was basically drawn from the cask. And I should have actually had it along with this because they're both Madeira. They're both roughly the same age. One of them bottled, but handled differently. Because I think this one, from what I'm told, spent all of its life in Madeira casks. It went from a first to a second fill.
Really?
Interesting.
And yet, still smells like Bushmills.
Strange.
What
Mind
percentage
that,
is that one?
a high proof, Jim.
This here, 46%.
Just thinking about remember the Rowan Co. cask strength they released was port casks for 13 years.
Yeah, that
That
still
was-
smelled like Bushmills.
But that was potent, like really, really dry. I can't imagine 30 odd years in Madeira casks, what that would be like.
I can tell you what it's like.
It's like Bushmills.
It's That's exactly what I was going to say. Man, that just all the blackcurrant that I expect from Bushmills, all that blackcurrant, and it was Greg's Whiskey Guide coined the phrase with me one time about blackcurrant bud. And I don't know, I've never tried blackcurrant bud, but I think that's obviously small. And it's all there, all in the. This is beautiful. Is it £2,100 beautiful? No, of course it's not. But it is lovely. Alan, the whiskey friend, is in. Alan, good to see you, my friend. I missed somebody else. Daniel Vermaas. Good to see
Another
you.
comment before about gifts. Let me see, where was it? Sugar Kitty was talking about like a German brandy and chocolate, and it reminded me of Tony's chocolate whiskey gifts he gave us, which were unreal.
Well, that's another thing that seems to be becoming very popular, is chocolates and toffees and etc.
Yeah.
But if you do it right, it's really good. Like what
You
do
do
you
it
have in
right.
there, Tony Kilkerran in chocolate?
First one was Kilkerran, and then there was Springbank Cast Strength, and then
Both
Royce
good though.
Loch Lomond. What did
Good
you
point.
pop there?
Neil, what have you got there?
I have a Hazelburn 10. Just popped it out. Aye.
Is that the first ball? No.
That's my first bottle of it. Yep.
Do you know what it tastes like?
Hazelburn
Bushmills.
10.
Nika Yoichi.
Just a wee
What were you
pour.
going to say?
The wee boy. That's lovely. I do like that. I'm a favourite.
I seen you had whiskey truffles, Jim. Friend at hand, was it?
I know, but they're not as good as yours. And they're made by Michelin star people down at the Waterman House. And I'm not blowing smoke up your ass by saying that. Not even with this.
I think yeah.
It's you know, because the thing about it was you could properly taste the whiskey in yours, and you could have nailed where it was from almost, certainly which region it was from. However, I imagine it was a costly experiment for you.
No, it wasn't too bad, no.
Well, I mean, one of them was one of them not Springbank 12-year-old.
Yeah, the Springbank 12 Cast Strength, yeah. But you're only taking a wee bit out of the bottle. Into the glass and then some into the chocolates.
Well, it was very.
Richard
Sorry, man.
Agnew's put in about a Boona 12 Christmas tree bulb, and I had to Google it there.
That is a new one. I hadn't heard of that.
Perfect
I
accessory
seen
for your tree or a thoughtful gift. Can you drink it though?
I seen last year there was some companies were doing whiskey filled baubles, but they'd probably be harder to drink out of than that square glass.
They would, all right.
Yeah, it'd be a rough
Although
Christmas
there'd be
day.
some people lying around the Christmas tree.
Yep.
It's like whenever they used to have all those drugs fires, whenever they just used to throw the drugs onto the fires. People standing around them. It's just Mars bar wrappers everywhere. I don't know. I've obviously drank too much tonight.
Sure, you're off tomorrow. That's okay.
I'm off tomorrow. That's what it is.
Was that in Kells or somewhere else in Paris?
Antrim.
Then what do you think of the Hazelburn?
Initially on the nose. Jaffa Cake thing there, actually.
It's no linkwood.
No.
Jaffa cakes, don't mention that. Jim doesn't like it.
You see, that's the thing, Neil. You've spoiled yourself with the linkwood to go on to Hazelburn a bit. And I'm not necessarily joking whenever I say that, because they're not dissimilar. You know, they're both sort of that fairly sweet, light almost. And I know it raises that whole triple distillation thing again that we were chatting about yesterday, but that was a chat of another time for another time. It's weird. We blathered on there. I actually was gabbing on there for more than I thought we had done, and just sort of done the usual. We sort of went off subject, but we didn't because we'd already done glassware pretty much. I don't think there was anything else to say. Was there about glassware? Was there? Anybody?
I don't think so.
No, nothing to add.
Start using the Thompson brews.
They're not cheap
Thompson
though.
Brothers. I just honestly, mate, it's just I'll probably try it at some point. That was the other thing that it's weird about glassware, that somebody asked me that yesterday in the shop, and I mentioned something about you buy your glassware off this, or you buy your glassware off that, and they sort of laughed and went, "You never have to buy glassware, you know. Sure, you know, you just keep getting gifted." But for a long time, no, you had to buy we all had to buy our glassware from somewhere. You all have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And the thing is, what happens is then it does start to gather up, and then you realize all of a sudden you've got half a dozen Glencairns, and then you maybe a wee Capita sneaked in there. Maybe you've been in John Bittle's bar and you've come away with some. Maybe you're Nigel. Maybe you're Nigel and you get 3,000 glasses from. He's not here. Well, what we'll do is at some point, I don't know, anybody that's watched any of our live streams before will know that Nigel, Mr. Whiskey and I is usually in here, not in the night. At some point, we'll go around for a drink at Nigel's house, and we'll all have to leave with a glass just for the crack.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think I left Glasgow there a few weeks ago with more glasses and bottles. So
it used to be the thing almost. It used to be the thing that you didn't leave a bar without a glass. I mean, I remember back in the day that you pretty much walked out with the pint in your hand, and then you woke up the next day with it in your pocket and couldn't figure out where this glass had came from, and it was just another glass in your house. It was just the thing.
The bottom of the glass in your pocket.
Do you remember that now? From 3 weeks ago. You should have actually brought that now and probably melded these two babies together. You could have had some sort of weird. This just doesn't work. That was a lovely whiskey, but it didn't work in that. I don't want to hold this at all. I don't want this to become a thing. What did you say it was? Tony Spey or something?
I think it's like a Spey tasting glass, they call it.
Yeah.
I think it's the same as Somerton, Legie. Is theirs the same?
Yeah, they did them. Oh, yeah. Not sure what they called it.
Don't like it. It's
almost like a liqueur type glass, isn't it? It's like
it just doesn't. You need something. You need to, in my opinion, you need to feel like as if you can separate yourself from the drink. So at least in this, you still can.
yeah,
Unless you're in. Nil. Yeah, you have to hold yours like that, Nil.
No, 2 hands, like a chalice.
But this is the best separation. Then
Yeah.
you know, it seems a bit silly, but yeah. And I'm glad. I was sort of glad to hear that Doc was in earlier on and saying that this didn't work. He said that this didn't go down very well at that festival. This is atypical of Irish whiskey at the moment, in my opinion. Let's just do something and see if it works, and they're sort of stuck with it. Don't get me wrong. Fair play to the people that it's innovation. They're trying to do something a bit different, etc. But I'm convinced that for those of us who are serious about whiskey, without trying to lose any friends, this just isn't a great thing. It's not, you know, it's not, especially. So getting back to it, winding back to it before we finish up, before we wrap it up. You can't really nose or taste. You'll taste whiskey out of this, of course you can, but for nosing purposes, no. Yes, you'll be able to smell it, but it all dissipates very quickly. And also, you're back to that same thing where you're tempted to pour an awful lot just to make it look like something in the glass. A measure in the bottom of one of those looks like nothing. So it doesn't.
Nice glass to drink with when you're not worried about nosing, like just a.
Yeah, as I said, bourbon and Coke. This is my glass of choice. Bourbon, even. Yeah, I still tend to, when I'm not thinking about it, as you said, Lee J. But if I saw anybody doing reviews based on a glass like this, I wouldn't trust them. I wouldn't trust their reviews. Does that sound wrong?
No.
No.
They're not going to get everything out of it because it's meant to funnel, isn't it? The Glencairn.
Yeah.
This is J.R. Ewing. That's what this is. For anybody who's old enough to remember Dallas, yeah.
There's been times
you just walk in, you swirl it around, you loads of ice in it, and you bang it back.
Crystal cup.
Like I would have brought whiskey bottles to my father-in-law's house over Christmas. Like I brought him a Speyburn 15 months ago, and then a glass like you had, Jim, a tumbler. It just felt more alcohol driven compared to when it was in a Glencairn. You know, he was like, geez, that's fucking sharp, you know, excuse my language. And I was like, no, it's not. That shouldn't be. It's very cherry driven. But so you definitely get a different feel, experience, and taste from a tumbler than you do a Glencairn, I think.
Well, I think we are the people who will steer those people, because my father-in-law is the same. And that would have been, as far as he was concerned, that was a whiskey glass. And I introduced him to the Glencairn glass. And I've even watched him with every now and again I've poured something in Capita, and he's sort of like, I prefer that. And so that's it. He's now gone this direction. And now, that being said, I've said it before, I pour him a measure that much in it, he'll put that much water in it, because that's the way he drinks whiskey. He just, but that's entirely up to him. So he doesn't get my good stuff. There's no, you know, but there's no, he knows that. I know that. Remember that later bottle of Jameson I was talking about earlier? But it just, I don't think so. It's one of those things that we don't find. I don't think, as I say, there's a snobbery in it. I really don't. I think anybody who would lift one of these and bang a whiskey into them is wasting whiskey. Anybody who sips a whiskey out of this, fair play to them. It's you can't argue with that. It's traditional. It's what we grew up with, even. And this was the glass that you got your whiskey in. These were developed for nerds like us. You know, this became the whiskey glass of choice. I was delighted, absolutely delighted, when we opened the tasting room, and this is what Willie had got to do tastings, because I was so nervous that he would have got, you know, 400 of these or even worse, almost worse, 400 of these. You know, it's not really me taking a stab at the people behind Tua, but I just don't like it. It's not for me at all. And weirdly, I've noticed a lot of people who originally, I sort of hinted at this earlier, originally thought Tua glasses were a lovely thing. They are a lovely thing. They're a lovely looking thing. But a lot of them then steered away from them very quickly when they realized that for one reason or another, they just didn't like them.
It seems you were saying earlier, Jim, everybody thinks the likes of the tumblers and that are the whiskey glass, and it wasn't that long ago I was the same until I got the Glencairn, covered them over, and then actually tested the difference, because I was of the opinion glassware didn't matter. But it wasn't until I done that wee experiment to figure out for myself, and then started buying all the random ones to try and get a better one.
And then sometimes these people release a bottle, and it's pointless buying it unless you buy a glass with it, because it takes the postage in, and you pay for your postage. Is that right, EJ? And you just
His photo was terrible that day as well.
That day you slipped and hit the
Oh yeah,
checkout.
finger slipped.
But they're all at that. I mean, that was. I mean, I'm just gonna say it. Loch Lomond this week did their or released their. We all love them. Released their latest distillery edition, and the thing about it was £45 a ball. Brilliant. Neil, you bought into this as well.
I did.
And you would sort of go, but free postage over £50. Right. But I want anyway. We have this glass for £9. So well, that'll do. Well, then if I add that onto it, then I got the free postage. But I've had to buy a glass that I didn't want. But at the same time, I've got a glass for £4 because the postage would have cost me £5 anyway, etc., etc. And they're all at it. You can't blame them for it. It's perfect marketing sense, really. But yeah,
especially when the picture is a Capita, but they actually send you a tooth.
Anyway, it is what it is. Gentlemen, we'll wrap it up.
Yep.
And we'll say that's enough for tonight. I think we beat that up well and truly. I mean, we dragged that out for long enough. There was, dizzying heights of about 40 people in here listening to this garbage tonight at some point, but it was entertaining. It was lovely.
Just apologize that we probably should have had subtitles.
We're well past that. Past that. But no, it was a pleasure to see you all. I haven't spoke really since Glasgow Whisky Festival.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, that's true.
That was a long time ago now.
Yeah. It does. It feels a long time ago. So
our livers are back to normal. So
normal is a strong word. But we'll put it all in the back burner for now, and then we'll be back in December with a blind challenge. And this was a weird. I'm just going to drop this one in while I remember before I leave. I had the weirdest comfort, and this is the reason why I almost felt as if I needed a break. Ryan, not Ryan, but Ryan Sutherland of 8 Doors Distillery. There was some chat on Instagram, and Ryan messaged me and said, "I'm still waiting on my the Highland Battalion." That's what we call ourselves, the Highland Battalion badge, and I just hadn't for 1 second thought this was Ryan Sutherland. I just seen the name Ryan, and a whole plethora of stuff happened then, and it all weirded my head out. This was part of the reason why I convinced myself I needed a break from reviewing. I just needed to stop for a while, especially whenever Ryan McLeave, who's here tonight, told me, no, I was wearing my badge quite proudly all weekend, and yes, those samples you're talking about, yes, it was me. You gave me them, and you've no idea, Ryan. On Saturday night, I was in meltdown in my head because I thought, who was I talking to then? Because I'm convinced this guy told me he never got a badge, samples, etc., etc. Who have I been talking to then? Because I've lost a complete portion of my life on my brain. I don't know what's happened. And I woke up on Sunday morning and went, Ryan Sutherland. That's who it was I was talking to. And I went straight into Instagram, looked it up, and sure enough, there was all the conversation. I was like, oh man, what about,
You have to be the special guest then for the blind.
So at least, I've spoken to Ryan since, and he went, I wondered what you were talking about. It was just weird because he came into the shop, and that was, he had been in, I gave you your samples when you were in the shop. No, you didn't. So it was weird because he had been in the shop. So there you go. That was all, the Relaxing Wood Shop, David, he says, sorry for the late arrival. David, I was just talking about your thing earlier on. So there you go. Sorry you're too late. Gentlemen, Sláinte. Cheers.
Cheers.
I'll speak to you in a moment. I'll drop you out for now. Thank you for joining me. Very much appreciate it.
Pleasure's mine.
Cheers, folks.
Always a pleasure to have the boys in. Always. Yeah, that's us for the night. Look, there was people in there that I was not expecting. Genuinely wasn't. I thought it was going to be a bit dead tonight. I know there was a few people couldn't make it in from the Highland Battalion as usual. And I mean, as I said before, I never expect all that. There's Highlands now. There's a dozen of us. We're a dozen strong, and honourable members all over the world now. Pretty much, if you have a badge, you are an honourable member. An honourable member. You're one of the Highland Battalion. There you go. That was a strong one. I'm just going to leave it here before I make a bigger fool out of myself. I'll be back in December, and it's looking like, as a matter of fact, it's going to have to be. And these guys, I haven't even mentioned it to these guys yet, but it's going to have to be probably Monday, the 18th of December, for the Christmas live stream. The Whiskey Novice Christmas live stream, Jim's Monday Malt Samples Christmas live stream. This is certainly the second year, maybe the third year of one of those live stream, but not just live stream, blind challenge, little blind challenge. All of the Highland Battalion have got their blind samples, bar one add-on that is just about to get some. So even though they'll not all be on screen taking part, I know that they've all got their samples, and this will be the first time ever, maybe the only time I'll have been able to do this, or will be able to do this. Make sure that all of the people that I want involved have got blind samples. So whether they're going to be on screen or not, at least everybody will be able to take part in some way. And it's just the Highland Battalion involved, and I'm looking forward to it. Very much looking forward to it. So apart from that, I'll be back at Christmas. 18th of December, as I say, is looking like the date. Thank you very much for joining me. This was weird. It was bizarre, as always. Glassware, gadgets, gifts, all sorts of weird and funky stuff. It's been entertaining. Thank you very much for joining me, as always. It's been a pleasure. Reviews will resume at some point. I will be back to reviewing, but I'll be keeping some sort of videos and stuff going. Until then, listen, thank you very much for joining me. It's been a pleasure. Thank you from all of everybody that's been here tonight. Look after yourselves. Here's to your good health. Cheers, folks.
Thank you.